So confident, we thank you for your innovation. This is innovation. One person, 20 books, 2020. Great innovation. We thank God for you, and we release God's blessing upon your life. And be anointed.
Yeah. I've returned, and only now I've returned in the name of Jesus. So, if you thought I don't have that mental, now I've got it. We have been addressed by already three very, 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 very heavy laden generals. So you don't have a choice, because what? Normally they'll say you're on holy ground. Eh? So do you have a choice there? You don't have a choice. So yes, thank you so much, Ntate Morris. I think, when I was reading to the congregation your brief, very, 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 very brief profile, one could get the sense that no, you've got years and years and years of industry experience that one can learn from. And now that you've spoken about the leadership aspects, which I think is quite important, and I think we were all asked to have a takeaway, and particularly on that purpose issue. Con, you also wrote a book, Young and Living on Purpose. Yes. So you probably really catch what Ntate Khadebe has been saying from that. But more even importantly for me is on the values. How we normally just, by the way, values. Our talents can never make us great without the values that you've spoken about. And for me particularly was the care issue that you spoke about. And you took me back to an article I wrote where I read that spoke about the ethics of care. Ethics of care. And you're like, okay, what's ethics of care? I went back and read. I then went to this concept of care. What does this care mean? And I read in nursing and medical science, they speak of palliative care. And palliative care means to treat something without necessarily dealing with a problem. So for instance, those who've got maybe a chronic something, you treat it to just ease the burden of pain. It's palliative care. So that's not the kind of care that we should have in trying to bring up people. It should be something that takes away that dependability that you're speaking about. Someone must depend on me to take away a burden that they may be having. So I think it's quite important. I caught a lot of those things that you were saying. So I really appreciate your wisdom and words there. And I believe everyone probably shares the same sentiment. Anyway, last speaker has to be you, sir. Someone says, Sizengawe. Sizengawe. But yeah, man, I don't even know. You've written 20 books. Well, you've written 26, but I mean, now we're here for 20, which you've somehow managed to. Some person would say you're now in the extraterrestrial space. 20 books is I said it when we started, it's a lot. And it's a lot. It's 20, not when someone writes a book, they are so overjoyed and so happy because they've published something. And 20. I mean, sometimes it's just so unfathomable. But the whole secret in it is what Mr. Khadebe said. You must complete. Yeah. You can't just start. You must complete. Eh? So, but he said something that I've also heard before, that Christians, just want to claim this mountain shall be removed. It won't move. It shall not move if you're not willing to complete the project. That is why in strategic management, when you talk about a strategy, you give it a term or years that, oh, this is a strategic plan from 2010 to 2030.
Yes.
So that you get to that time, you evaluate that, oh, okay. Because you have to finish. You can't just, it's not revolving. Just like your talents are also not revolving. They will diminish one day, so use them while you still can. But do not claim other people's talents. Do not go and call upon, I don't know, the spirit of, it's not righteous if you don't complete. Guys. Just complete. If you start a project, finish it. The alphabet has A to Z. Guys. The day has morning to night. Everything you can think of has begin to end. You even speak about Alpha and Omega, but you don't want to complete. So let's take that prescription and complete. I found it quite important because we start a lot of things and we don't complete. I'm guilty of certain things that I haven't completed. But then sometimes when you're a normal human being, you can say, why am I not finishing that thing? You know? But if we don't have those values that we've spoken about, it becomes a challenge. So we are grateful that you finished 20 books. And that at least now you can talk to us about them a little bit so that we can also see whether we can start reading them and finishing them. You know? Because otherwise, we don't get your ideas if we don't finish the books. And now I'm not sure whether you want us to read all 20 books. I would gladly call, I don't want to speak much because you are here to speak about your books and tell us your thinking around them. And then after you're done, I'll see if there are any questions for you, and we can facilitate that. And when we're done there, it says lunch here, so I suppose it's refreshment. On top there it says refreshments, here it says lunch. So I suppose there's a difference in the two. All right, Con?
Yes, sir.
Come, man.
Wow, what a day.
Wow.
What a day. I've been imagining this day for 5 years. Jesus is good.
Amen.
Popular scripture, this is the day the Lord has made and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day the Lord has made.
Indeed.
You know, when I was sitting there listening to the speakers, you guys, it's almost like you visited me and heard my thoughts, because a lot of my speeches already been mentioned. So I'm gonna repeat some things, but pretend that I'm saying them originally as you have not heard them, because this was my speech. Before the people who say these words say these words. So if it sounds familiar, it's okay. There's a popular Christian axiom that says, when God gives you a vision, He gives you provision.
Yeah.
That Radele said that. I was going to say that before you.
Yeah.
But for me, this is manifestation of that. Because if you had asked me when this project came, as a thought, as an idea about how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, I would not have an answer for you. But what I've realized is that when God gives you a vision, He gives you provision. And everything from just the thoughts in the books. I was sitting with my beautiful wife, Marwan, and I was looking at the books and I said, babe, I don't know where these things come from. Because I was looking at, and you go through the process of writing, and you're just laying it down on paper, laying it down, okay, this one is done, let's go to the next one. But yesterday, I think for the first time, it hit me. And I was looking at them and I said, this can only be God. This is not my own strength. This is not my own ideas. This is not my own intelligence. This is not my own wisdom. This comes from a greater source. Because when God gives you a vision, He also gives you provision. And when we talk provision, this is provision.
Yes.
And thank you, Ntate Radebe, for partnering with us. This is provision. This is part of God's provision. The idea is the material in the books is part of God's provision. You guys being here is God's provision. When God gives you a vision, He'll give you provision as well. So that's the first statement. Ntate Radebe made that statement. The second statement was made by my wife. Before I got married, I kid you not, it took me 10 years to write my first book. Before I got married. After I got married, it took me 5 years to write 25 books. That's not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence. So can we just give my wife a round of applause? Wow. I remember the first time I came here, it was in 2016. We just gotten married. I think you remember that. We just gotten married. And I saw a post on Facebook. It said Speakers Academy. Remember the Speakers Academy with ImpowerWorks?
Yeah, I remember.
So, we had spoken, and I said to her, this is something that I want to go seriously into, becoming a speaker and being serious and making a difference in the world. I think the ticket was about 1,000 rand, and we just got married. We didn't really have the 1,000 rand to spare, but we made a plan, came together, I came here, and I'm so glad for that day because it introduced me to this place. And for the past 3 years, I've been coming here, and the work you're doing is not in vain. If there's ever any shadow of a doubt about the work you're doing to empower leaders, let that doubt die today.
Amen.
Because we come here, we are empowered, we go back a little bit than we came.
Yeah.
I'd like to also honor my mentor, Tate Las Radebe, is a brother. I remember years back, about 10, 15, 12 years ago, I used to walk from school, walk home, and he used to walk with me, and we'd talk about all these big things, right? We're going to write books one day, we're going to start companies, and today all those things are manifesting, and the power of words as well. It's important to speak life into your life. So I just want to honor you, Mrena. It's a bit like I call him my Moses. Moses took, because let me diverge this. Because when he met me, I just gotten out of a drug addiction. Some people know, some people don't know. But he was the person who took me, because the addiction represented bondage for me. So it's like an Egypt. So he came, God sent him like a Moses to say, we need to go across the Red Sea. So that's why I always appreciate you, Marana, because you came at a point in my life where I needed somebody of your caliber to help me make the transition. Thank you. If you go by the headlines of the day, you'll not be mistaken in thinking that ethical leadership is dead. If you were to listen to the radio bulletin at 6 p.m., if you were to watch the news at 7 o'clock, we will not falter you for thinking that there are no moral leaders around. But when we look at people like Tatarade, we are inspired, because we say there are lights in the darkness. There are examples that we can follow. And at this moment, I'd like to honor Tatarade. We've got a gift for you, Moreno. If you'll receive this gift, can you give him a round of applause? So, This is a gift from my wife and I. It's heavy.
It nearly fell.
Yeah, it's quite heavy. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who can guess what's in there? Books. There are people. We invited the right people. Wow. Thank you, sir. And thank you for everyone that came. I see my closest friend, Elroy. And well, my wife is my closest friend. But Elroy is a very close brother of mine. We've known each other for about 15 years, man. And we used to be part of the leadership at Northern Academy. And we used to, think and make big plans. Now one day we're going to start organizations. One day we're going to do this. And today it's happening, my friend. Again, the power of words. And when God gives you a vision, He gives you provision. So, show me out. And I also want to thank, if I go to each and every person is going to take, Wendy, please stand up. That's my sister, guys. My little sister. Yeah, the darling of my parents. Thank you, sister. But thank you to everybody. I'm not going to mention names. Waloi. This guy, he MCs all our. He MC'd our wedding, and he did such a great job. I don't pay him though. But I have a feeling one day he's gonna. Someday I have this feeling, I'm gonna get an email from Decent invoice. There's a saying from I had at one of the events. I think it was the speakers. But when there's a voice, there's an invoice. So I have a feeling, or one day I'm going to open my mails, and then it was Decent Value. Greetings. Please see invoice attached for services rendered. First book launch. Second book launch. Wedding total. But my friend, thank you for always making yourself available. A leader, a great leader. He works at UNISA. I think a lot of you could tell he's an academic of note. He's raising more leaders in his sphere. Brilliant young man. Can you give him a round of applause? Like I said, if I go, so I just want to say the PC ways, all protocol observed. Thank you so much to everybody. Just on the 20 books, I was chatting to earlier, and actually, and I said to him, the 20 books didn't start at 20. Let me use this example. If God told Moses everything that he was going to encounter, so God gave him his snippets. But if they told him everything, I think there would have been a temptation. No, but hey, God, it's too much, it's too heavy, the mountain is too big. So when God spoke to me about this, He didn't say write 20 books. He said, you've been writing books on a regular basis, just do 5. And I finished 5. I said, okay, maybe we can launch 5. And then God said, no, just do 7. 10. 10 became 15. I remember I was talking to Mr. Musa, and he said, I'm on 15. I feel like God is saying go to 20. And went to 20. And if it said, here's the mountain, climb it, I don't think I would have climbed it. But He said, just take this step. Once you take this, take another step. And I think it's a way to approach a lot of goals that we have. We mustn't think, there's an African proverb, if you want to eat an elephant, eat it piece by piece. And the reason we get so intimidated by goals and dreams and visions that we may have is because we're imagining that we have to swallow the whole elephant. But that's not the case. None of us can swallow the whole elephant. But if you cut it into bits and say, you know what, just for today, You know, when I do writing and coaching with the writers, I tell them, don't worry about the 40,000 words that you have to write. Worry about the 1,000 you have to write today. Because if you write the 1,000 for today, the 40,000 will take care of itself. So in approaching our goals, whatever your project may not be 120 in 2020, your project may be making your first million in your business. Don't worry about the first million. Start thinking, how do I make the first 100,000? How do I make the second 100? Because by taking those steps, you'll get to your end goal. Don't worry about swallowing the whole elephant. Eat it piece by piece. And that's how this project was achieved. And you know, somebody will ask, I always get this question, which one is your favorite book? And it's like asking a parent with 26 children and say, which child? and the thing is, each child, each book is different from the other. Each child offers something unique that the other may not have. But it doesn't make them more valuable. It just means they're unique. And the way that you approached writing this particular one was not the way you approached it. There are books that took me 6 months to finish. There are books that took me 2 months to finish. But it doesn't mean the one that took me 2 months is less valuable to the one that took me 6 months. It was just the journey for that particular book. So with each and every project that you undertake, look at it and say, what does this project need? It may not need the same things as the other project, but whatever this particular project needs, and you know what the project needs, you go for it, and you make sure that, I love what you said, Tata Maurice, about finishing. Because a lot of us do start and we don't finish. I really want this to be an interactive session. I feel like there are many questions that will come. I hope there are, because I'm loaded, I'm ready, and I really want to interact with everybody. So I won't take up too much time. I'm ready for the Q&A session, actually. But thank you, everybody, for coming. Also to the service providers, and Tatasol with the sound, Matipi with the videography, and Palesa for the photography. And yeah, I'm ready for the Q&A session, Moran. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Salim. Sorry, I was just opening something. All right. Okay, you've given us, I think what he's given us is if you read, well, today we'll have to use reading as an example. If you read, you don't have to read much, but if you read any book, you'll see they have either a preface or a foreword, those type of things, which tells you a little bit of the book or the experiences of the author or something. So he's given us that, particularly on the amalgamation of all those books, which are 20. Well, I don't see them now, but they're at the back. Well, at least I can see them here. Sorry, my program, I have them. I'm sure you have a mental picture of the books. So yeah, we'll just have a short while to also reflect by ourselves with the author on certain questions that we may have, whatever question. Well, maybe not whatever question, but book-related questions. Book-related questions that you may want to ask the author. I think if you do have that question, you can ask it from where you are. I think there'll be a roving microphone somewhere. I see it, yeah. There'll be a roving microphone, and he will use this one to quickly answer your question. Anyway, I'll make it easy. I'll start. Maybe I'm not making it easy. I'll just make it more bearable, comfortable. I'll start. And if there's someone, just by a show of hands, you'll just raise your hand and the mic will get to you if there's any question you want to ask about the books. But for me, it's more on all the books. And I, sometimes when you are not able to do something, you think it's very difficult. But for someone else, it may not be difficult. For me, definitely, writing 20 books would be difficult. I don't have a single one. So writing 20 books would be difficult. So I'll always hinge on that. This is 20 books. So for me, is on the inspirational side. Besides the fact that you've already said that you got a word that says right, what's the inspiration behind writing these type of books? Besides that, write about what? What's the inspiration behind all these things? Because I see it covers quite a variety. It goes from even your personal, can be a personal, someone who wants to deal with their personal issues can read a book here. Someone wants to deal with business, a business leader, a business executive can read a book here and be fine. Anyone in society can read. So it casts quite across sectors. And I just want to check what was the inspiration. It may have been the initial inspiration or the inspiration as you went along writing. So if you could just cover that for me quickly, that I think I would be happy. Thanks.
So, to answer that question, I have to go back to my second book, which was titled A Confident Approach. So how that book came along, if everybody can think back with me to 2008. So 2008 was the year of the financial crisis. And it hit our family quite hard because we ended up losing our home, we had to move. And I was doing my second year at the time. We didn't know where the finances would come from, and God provided. On my 21st birthday, I was doing my second year. We didn't know how we were going to pay for that year. On my birthday, 1st October 2009, 2008, sorry, because they were going to pay for the second year. They called me and they said, we want to give you a job. And I was at the AAA School of Advertising. But we're not going to give you a salary. We're going to pay for your second year, which was my final year. And that was just a big blessing. But amidst that big blessing, there was also quite a lot happening in the background because of the financial crisis. So it was really a time of, I was down, I was not feeling well. But what I started doing, I started writing, I just joined Facebook, and I started writing inspirational message almost in a very selfish mood, because I was writing them not to inspire anybody else but myself. But I said, let me just put it out there. And people started interacting. They said, wow, I needed to hear this. And I realized, but as they were saying that, I was getting healed. So I needed inspiration. I put inspiration out there. And through what people were saying, I was getting inspired. So that's where the inspiration was birthed. Incidentally, it was birthed through crisis. There's something about crisis. Not all crises come from the devil. I think sometimes God ordains a crisis so that people can rise, so that there can be sparks. Those who are sleeping must wake up. And during that crisis, the nerve or the intent to inspire was kindled in me. And from there, I was writing inspirational thoughts on Facebook. But then I said, if I can write an inspirational thought on Facebook and a couple of people like it, some comment, and they say, I needed to hear this has really helped me today, why not write an article? So I started writing articles. I went knocking on both Sowetan and different publications. Sowetan opened the door for me. And they gave me space. They had a section, an inspirational section, where on a regular basis I contribute. And I'd get such good feedback. And from there, I said, if I can write a post, then I can write an article. If I can write an article, I can write a book, inspirational book. And then that's where the second book, A Confident Approach, came from. The first one was purely poetry, purely art, but also had elements of inspiration. So from that second book, which was my first inspirational, out and out inspirational book, which also had elements of leadership. The spark came, and at that time, you know, we were discussing the law and all, so the spark became a fire, and I just started writing more and more. So the urge to write these types of books comes from a desire to inspire, because I know that through words, my life was changed through words. You know, listening to the likes of Les Brown, listening to Miles Monroe, listening to T.D. Jakes, all of those guys, their words inspired me. And so I know that through words I can inspire other people. And then my purpose, Dr. Morris, you know, the purpose is the ultimate thing. Because I know that my purpose is to write, to speak, to inspire others, to help other people become better versions of themselves. So the intent of all these books is just to help somebody become a better version of themselves. So that's where it was born. That's where it started, and this is where it is. I hope I've answered your questions. Any question? I've got a question from George in the back. I think it is George.
I'm very quiet.
But there's the mic there. So you can keep it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can hear myself now. Yeah, thanks for that, by the way. I wouldn't necessarily have to ask this question thinking of the brother-in-law. I'm thinking now, tomorrow I'll just go to his place and chat about it. So, but I'm thinking I might not be the only person that might have this question in their mind. So in regards to that, you're a writer.
Yes, sir.
And being a writer, you might go through certain phases, certain, I don't know if I can describe it as phases only, but through certain things, you know, certain roles and certain minds and certain aspects through the writing. And now, if you're a sportsman, for example, people will say you're going through a slump if you're not performing as well as you usually do on a daily basis. So now, if you're a writer, it will be described as a writer's block, right? So if you ever go through that, how do you deal with it? You know, and especially through these 20 books, if you have gone through a writer's block, how did you deal with that?
Thank you for the question. Very good question. So writer's block, and it's something that a lot of writers speak about. But for me, I'm going to be quite harsh in my answer. But I'll be harsh because I believe what I'm saying is true. Writer's block is an excuse not to write. Writer's block is an excuse to start your book and then only 8 months later get back on it when you say, I've got inspiration. How you overcome writer's block is commitment. So there's a quote I like, it says, commitment is doing what you said you would even when you don't feel like it. If you're a writer and you commit yourself that today I'm not sleeping until I write 1,000 words, and you go on into a laptop and you start writing, first idea that comes, it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be polished. You go there and you start. And you know, the thing about ideas is that once you birth an idea, it always births another idea. That's how ideas work. Every idea is pregnant with more ideas. So if you go there and you say, you know what, no maganjani, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to start. First idea that comes, okay, let me start on that. What are the different sides to that particular idea? It doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of times we think things have to be polished when we start. You polish later, we'll polish later. But let's start. As rough as it is, as raw as it is, we'll cook it later and it will be edible and smell nice. But for now, let's start with where we are, the idea. First idea, whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter because every idea will birth. And an average idea can birth a good idea, and a good idea can birth a great idea. But if you stop and you say, I've got a bad idea, which a lot of people who talk about writer's block will say, it's not that they don't have ideas. We have creativity flowing every day. You've got an idea, it's just that you don't believe in the idea. Or you think it's not a great caliber of idea. But if you put it on paper, if you honor that bad idea, and you honor it and you say, I'm going to honor this idea as bad as it is, that idea will say, you know what, you've honored me, I'm going to give you a good idea. And then you keep going. That good idea will honor you and say, I'm going to give you a great idea. And you find in the end, what you produce is great. It may not have started as great, but there's a code I love. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start in order to be great. So for me, writer's block is an excuse to not write. It's an excuse to say, I'm sure. There are writers who say, now I've got a few ideas on the shelf, but it's not going to change anybody's life. It's on the shelf. It needs to be produced. It needs to be put out there so that people can be impacted. I hope I've answered your questions.
Good. Another one. Yes. Raise your hand.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Not yet.
Okay. I think it will be similar to the previous question, but slightly indirect.
Yes, sir.
At what stage of being an author did you find it to be more challenging? That's number one. Number two, what stage of book writing did you find it to be challenging?
Thank you for the question, sir. And the answer for both is one answer. When you produce material at a higher than average rate, one of the dangers is repetition. So in the writing, I always have to caution and question, is this an idea that I've presented before? Or even if it's an idea presented before in another book, am I presenting it in a fresh way? So the biggest challenge for me was not to regurgitate. Even if, purpose is one of the principles that is quite uniform in many of the books. But how I talk about purpose in book number 1 shouldn't be the way I talk about purpose in book number 20. The message may be the same, but how I present it. It's like chicken. Everybody eats chicken, right? There's chicken, if you want chicken, there's chicken that will be served. But the chicken is the same animal. We can't change the chicken. But how we present the chicken is what makes the chicken different. So you go to KFC. They've got the same chicken, but how they presented it is different to Nando's. Same chicken, same nutritional benefit. How Nando's has presented the chicken is different to Popeyes. It's different to how my mother cooks it. Same chicken, same principle, same idea, but how do you present it? How do you make it fresh? By Malay, there's nothing new under the sun. The principles we teach are age-old, and as an author yourself, you'll understand. The principles we teach are age-old, but our challenge is to present them in a way that is fresh, in a way that is congruent with modern life, in a way that our current generation will receive them and implement them. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, I'll take that one first before I come to you. For the hand today.
Thank you. For me, it's just, I'm aware that you are also a publisher, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So for someone who is in that process where perhaps they've started writing or they're considering publishing a book, what would you say are the things to look out for in a publisher? Because there's quite a number of people that are in that space.
Yeah.
So what is it that an upcoming author needs to look for to say these are the things that an ideal publisher should have, and what expectations should we go to publishers with? Because some people go with the expectation that at the end this person will have to distribute my book and all those kind of things. So if you can please just take us through that process of what to look for and what to expect. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So publishers are different and they offer different things. So you've got your major publishers for Penguin and the likes. Their systems are different from a publisher of my company's size. And so expectations and deliverables are not the same. I don't have a nationwide, what do you call it, distribution channel. But I tap into, for authors who want a nationwide distribution channel, I tap into my connects and we distribute. But the most essential thing with the publisher is that the publisher should care about, one of the things I always ask people before I publish them is, what is the purpose of your book? My wife will tell you there's a young man who came to us and he had a book idea. And the book idea was about how to become a Casanova. So how to charm and deceive girls into sleeping with you. That was his book. And immediately I said, babe, we are not publishing this thing.
Yeah.
Even if he comes with the money. No thanks. Because the books that my company publishes, and you can go through any book that my company has published, they're about helping people elevate, they're about inspiring people, they're about helping people go to the next level. So, like I said, publishing houses differ in size. But what I love is the fact that I can help my authors on a one-to-one level. I can ask them, what do you want to do beyond? And a book, a lot of times I tell my authors, a book is also an access card. So you'll find there's a couple of authors, I'll mention Mashari, Matume, Captain Zondi. Right now, they've been on platforms, national platforms even, international platforms with Mashari. But the access key was the book. And we worked together to say, okay, how do we access these opportunities? Because some publishers are interested in just getting the book out there. It's transactional, like Dr. was saying. So, as a smaller publishing house, we are not transactional. We want to know, what do you want, what is your purpose as an author? And how do we, beyond just publishing the book, how do we take this book and make it something that can grow your message, something that can take you on different platforms? And with all of my authors, I always give them that option that, you know what, there's platforms here, come to this particular show, let's go to this radio station, let's do this, let's do it, so that we can expand it beyond just the book. The process itself, there's a beautiful axiom I love. It says, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. So, if your book and your idea is right for the time and it's right, we're going to receive it and we're going to run with it. Whether it's us, whether it's any other, every good publisher, any decent publisher will spot a good book. And the relationship, the money side of things, it's up to you, whatever your appetite is. My offering may be different to a Penguin or any other publisher's offering. The way we structure the deal, and that's semantics at the end of the day. It's because it's up to you, the author, whether to sign or not. So the deals are different, but the most important thing is, what is the purpose of your book? What do you want your book to achieve? For me, that's first thing. Before we even talk the money, I want to know, is this a book that I'm willing to invest my time, my energy, my gift into, and take it into the world? Do I know that this book is going to change a life? Do I know that this book is going to make, take somebody from level 1 to level 10? And that's how, personally, I judge. I can speak for other authors. I hope I've answered your question. Awesome.
Dr. Khalid.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask as a business leader, as a business person, as a trainer.
Yes.
And I want to ask a question which a lot of artists, they end up in life being paupers, whether they produce books or songs, or we end up actually burying them as paupers. My question is, what is your business model for an author, so that they can be able to think about, to put it bluntly, how do I monetize this asset that I have, so that it actually adds value into my life?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of young people writing books and it's 7, 2, 3 quid and then from there it lies on the shelf.
Yeah.
But there is great hope that they will
Yeah.
make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's an element of not thinking through the monetizing strategies of that, which we need to bring into bear.
100%, 100%. This is, any of my authors, Mashadi will testify to this. One of the things I say, especially at the initial meeting, I say, once you become an author, you become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, you have a product. As an entrepreneur, there's always, whether it's a service or product, there's something that you have that you believe is of value to the market that you must go and sell. And when I say the book becomes an access card. So, for instance, with my books, I've got a book titled The Power and Building a Power Team. My expectation with that book is not, I'm going to sell 100 copies and that's done. There's material in there that I'm turning into a course.
Okay.
Go into an organization, give my value proposition. This is the value that I've added to other organizations through such material. Now, that book, from a single unit, I can go into an organization and say, but this is bigger than a book. I can do a 5-day workshop with your team, and they will come out a better team because of this. Now I've taken my product and I've monetized it beyond selling the single book, which is something that I always tell my authors as well. That your book is merely an access card to other opportunities. You know, an organization may come and say, well, I want 1,000 or 10,000 copies, and you know, you become a millionaire. You make your first million. 10,000 copies if you sell. Those of you who are wondering whether to write a book, you can become a millionaire. Sell 10,000 copies, you've made your first million. So this myth of there's no money in books, it's a myth. And there are authors who are doing it, there are authors who have done it. But I always want to take it beyond the book and say, but this is a product that I can repackage and resell. The beauty about it is now I've got the hardcore content. I just have to go and say, okay, this is relevant for this particular organization, it's not relevant for this aligns, you know, with their particular struggle in the organization. I can come in as a solution provider. They'll hire me, I'll invoice them, they pay me. I hope I've answered your questions. Thank you.
I know you have answered me with this question. I'm just asking for anyone who would want to get an answer. How do you manage yourself within the time? Because you are married, you have a wife, you have a child, you are working as well, and you have a business as well. How do you manage yourself within that time?
Somebody said, God isn't making any more hours than 24. So we can't look for there was an advert years ago said for a 25-hour day. But there's no such. You are given 24 and you have to look for the 5 hours that you'll be devoting to your craft. My wife will tell you, when I was busy with these books, she'd wake up at 2 a.m. and find me waking. So that was me saying, okay, I've got 24. I'm going to sacrifice 2 or 3 hours of sleeping time, and you can survive on 5 hours, for example. I'm going to take 5 hours and devote it to my craft. So whether it's waking up, sometimes it's waking up at 3 to start. Sometimes it's going to sleep at 3 because you've just finished. But if you want it badly enough, you'll find the time. The notion that I don't have time, it just means that I don't prioritize I'm not really prioritizing my gift. There are people with the same amount of gifting as you have, but they're excelling at a greater pace because they have prioritized their gifting more than you have. There's a quote that came to me one day when I was speaking. I was speaking at the gospel tree. and I believe it was the Holy Spirit just dropped this quote into my spirit. And he said, you know the Bible quote that says, if you want, a man's gift makes room for him. But there was another angle to it, and it says, if you want your gift to make room for you, you must make room for your gift. So a lot of times we take that scripture and we say, you know, I'm gifted, this gift will make room for you. But if you are not making room for your gift, how will your gift grow? How will your gift become, you know, recognized in the marketplace, in society? And making room for your gift means making time to develop your gift. As I say, God only makes 24, He gives each and every one of us 24 hours. There may be, you know, 3 hours of the Queen, or Gomorrah, or Scandal, or Generations, that you may have to rethink. Because those are 3 hours that are not building your gift. And if you have to sacrifice those 3 hours and then devote them to your gift, now you are making room for your gift. And when you have made room for your gift will make room for you. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, I'm going to take the last ones as one.
Okay.
Right? So the last ones from the hands that I saw, they'll all come at once.
All right.
So that you can answer once. You can start.
What if it's quite a complex question?
Well, he's an author with 20 books in there.
Okay, cool. This one goes to both Confidence and Mr. Fade.
Oh,
Oh, that's the complexity you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay,
Because there's two questions.
We'll have to deal with complexity.
One is about leadership. Do you think leadership has an age where it's a practical, remember, leadership is not a position, it's a responsibility, it's practical, right? And we learn from the books, we learn from you, right? Do you think there's an age where, as people, as we grow up, we pick it up and say, now, I think I'm ready to be a leader, authentic or ethical? And looking at our politics now, where did they miss it? All our politicians, only in Zondo, they were leaders. Did they ever catch it? Or they ever caught it? Or some caught it, they left it somewhere else? Can you teach it to somebody and practice that? Second question is, to Confidence, who's your target market with all 20 books?
Please repeat that.
Who's your target market with this
Target
20
market.
books?
Okay.
Because like we said, if you want to hide something, put it in a book. People want to read it. But I think this is dedicated more to us as youth. When we started that, they are leaders now, right? But if you put it in a book like this, how many of us have access to the book? Especially youth. We are in technology now. We use platforms. We use audiobooks. So do you plan to turn it into some platform where it can reach a wider youth in South Africa?
Thank you for the question.
Okay, can you think about that while we need Ochin to come with this question quickly?
Sure, thanks. Greetings, everyone. Wow, let me start by emphasizing the fact that you are a pro. And I've never seen anyone writing 20 books. In fact, launching 20 books at once. I don't know if there's another person who did it, but it's my first time. In fact, it's my first time being at a book launch. So, yeah, it's really an honor. So, my question is, because you've taken me through a lot of things personally. So, as far as we've been in leadership together, and I'm learning a lot. So, what is your definition of a legacy of a leader? Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Last question from Wendy.
Congrats. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think it's really amazing. I have a question. What advice would you give to young writers who are trying to manage their insecurities about their writing, and how do you turn those insecurities into strengths?
Thank you.
Can
Yeah.
yeah. Can you follow?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, first you said is leadership got age. There's no age in leadership. Right? You can grow up and become a leader from a young age. I've got the privilege of having grandchildren. Is it on? Or should I put it in my pocket so that... all right. There is no age. As you can see with my grandchildren, very soon they play together and then somebody takes leadership. And you can see leadership emerging there and there, and I emphasize it as soon as possible as I can see, because I see leadership. And also there's no age. Martin Luther King died at the age of 38, but the impact he still has today is massive. It's unbelievable. Mandela assumed president of this country over 70 years old. The KFC founder started KFC at the age of 65. So there is just no age. All of us can lead at any different parts of our lives, and that's very important that you do that. And also there's this debate about is leadership born or made. It's both. There's some people that have got the natural instinct. Normally when we say leadership that are born, we normally speak about charismatic people who got a gift of the gab, can speak well, can enthuse people, and we say those are the leaders. That's not only the leaders. There's lots of other people who are leaders behind scenes. There was one leader that came here in LP and we asked him, who's your greatest leader that you admire? He says, my mother. You know, with no noise, nothing, but when he looks at you, you know when you're wrong or right. And he raised about 10 boys, you know? And that's a very powerful leadership. So it's a question of situations create leaders. Somebody said here, you know, once there's a crisis here and the lion comes out here and comes definitely I'm not going to be the leader of it, but somebody's going to emerge here and says, guys, let's all behave like this, and then probably look at the lion straight in the eye and manage to save. But situations emerges differently. Generations also raise different leaders. If you look at in the history of Africa, in the 60s, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Jomo Kenyatta, and all those guys who liberated us from colonialism had an age. Now, what is our generations? And so, leadership is some people are born, some are made, and you need also to differentiate between leaders and managers. I'm not going to go to that detail, but at the end, all of us sitting around this table are leaders. And that is what you need to accept as your responsibility. It may just mean leading your family during the crisis, just coronavirus, somebody passed on, nobody's got a clue, you lead. You make sure that there's a dignified funeral happening. We take over leadership all the time. So yeah, I think that answers my question, and if not, you must respond. Does it help?
It does help. Just one more. We are lucky to have confidence.
Yes.
We read his books.
Yeah.
Who was your confidence then?
When I grew up?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a number of them. A number of them. My grandfather was my confidence. My grandfather was my confidence because at the early age, as soon as I could count, he was a shopkeeper. As soon as I could count, he just made sure to come to the shop, and he taught me basic business. He taught me we would go to Macro, buy Omo, and then we pack it, and then they showed me that we bought it at 100 Rand, we must make 35% profit, and then at that time we would stamp the price, and then we would sell it at 30 Rand 50, and we paid it properly, customer service. I saw him hard work, waking up in the morning, praying, open the shop at 5, and then making sure that it's run properly. You wear the suit almost every day, that's why I'm comfortable with my suit. But he's a man of integrity, and inspired me to work hard. And I saw him, he was a standard 5, but he used to say to me when he really worked hard, and he was a very successful business person, he used to say, for now, it's either you work hard where you go to school. I'm standing five, but I'm a doctor. You know? And then they taught me also the spiritual life. Basically, one principle that he taught me is that so those fundamental values were installed in me. Then thereafter, there was a number of others. My mentors as I started my career, Nick, Isley, Koza, Humphrey Koza, many others who have been behind and in front of us have inspired me. So yeah, I still have them now. Most of the senior business leaders in this country form part of my board of advisors. I meet them once a year or two, and I share my awareness journey. And yeah, I have a lot of good advices.
So on the question of the target market, so let me call it the advantage. The advantage of writing this amount of books is that I will come. Each and every product created serves a need in society. A book is the same. So I'll come and look at these books and say, quit quitting and start winning. And that will speak to me because I have a problem with quitting. My target market with that book is people who have that particular issue. Someone will come and say, building a power team. And they'll think, in my organization, I'm struggling with my team. That's my target market. So each and every book is written to address specific needs. Valuing your value. People who suffer with low self-esteem. That book is for those people. Have you met yourself? If you're having an identity crisis, that book will speak to you. And the beauty about writing at this volume is that I get to interact with people who have different needs. And somebody will speak so passionately about this book, and they will not even see the other books. And somebody will speak so passionately about this book, and they'll not, because it addresses a specific need. If I'm thirsty, this will speak to me. But if I've just drank a liter of water, this will not speak to me. If I'm doing well in terms of building a power team, but I know that I'm suffering with leadership confidence, then I know, okay, I'm doing well here, but a confident approach to leadership, maybe that's the book for me. So who it's written for depends on the need. It's written for needs as opposed to people. And anybody and everybody at whatever level, whether it's a 10-year-old or a 70-year-old veteran, I believe they can look at this catalog and say, this one meets a need, meets a need that I have. On the second part of your question, with digitizing books and all of that. So, because right now, we're just launching them. And the objective right now is to push the hardcovers. So we've got our own sales strategy as well. So we really intensify the sales covers. There's a second phase where we go into audio. And then there's another phase where audio and digitization will go simultaneously. But it goes in phases, and it's part of our business strategy of how to maximize the product. Thank you, sir. And then, Fortune, you asked about legacy of a leader. I think the legacy of a leader is encapsulated. It was said, I think Beauty said it earlier, is to produce more leaders. It was Ralph Nader, he coined this beautiful quotation, which is a staple food of any leadership student. The purpose of a leader is not to create more followers, but to create more leaders.
Yeah.
because that's where your legacy will live in there. And in creating more leaders, it's not about replicating confidence, like what Ndadaradi was saying. When they started UMP, he saw that there's a danger of now this is going to become a center of Maurice Radebe replication. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is that in me being who I am and influencing you, you must become the best version of yourself, not the best version of myself. Because if you try to become the best version of myself, both of us have failed in the mission. I have failed as a leader, and you have failed because you will forever live your life frustrated, and you will not accomplish, the things that God has given you to accomplish. So the legacy of a leader, I believe, is to help other people to become the best versions of themselves, and when you do that, you automatically produce more leaders. On the third question asked by my beautiful young sister there, Wendy, last born I go high. What's up? What's up? She's a brilliant writer. She's a better writer than me. And I'm not saying that just because I want to go high. I've read her stuff. She's powerful. And I think the question that you asked is a very important question, because there are a lot of people who have powerful messages that need to be heard, but they're stopping at the step of belief. I can have the talent of Usain Bolt, but if I have no self-confidence, if I don't believe in my gift and what God has given me, I will not even put on the running shoes. The talent is there, the gift is there, but then there's that question, what if I do it and the response is, what is this? And I think it's a hurdle that every person, not just authors, have to overcome. If you start a business, and that hurdle of what if I start it and it fails? But then at the age of 70, is that what you want to think of on your deathbed, at the age of 8 or 90, whenever God calls you? Is that the thought, like I had an idea for a book, just one book, and that book was supposed to transform 1 million lives, but because you didn't believe in it, now 1 million people have suffered or have gone through things that they could have, circumvented because of the ideas you would have presented in that book. Remember that, especially for an author, when you write, you're not writing for yourself. The great Miles Monroe used to like saying that the mango tree doesn't eat mangoes. So when you produce these books, yes, I was the vessel that God used to bed them, but I know that these books are meant to go and feed. So if I don't write these books, I'm robbing somebody, I'm holding somebody at gunpoint and saying, give me your purpose, give me your purpose, give me your vision, give me your identity. Because by me releasing these books, then I'm empowering them to discover themselves, to discover their vision, their identity, their purpose. So if I don't write the book, somebody is at a deficit. So to overcome the insecurities about writing, think about 3 things. 1, God has given you the gift. And if you overcome that first step, the rest is history. I started with 1 book. I didn't start with 20. People say 20 today, but they don't know about the 10 years of writing the first book. And having those very same insecurities. Saying, hey, but it was a poetry book, or this poem, is it too simple? Is it too childish? Is it too this? Is it too that? But I had to overcome that and say, no matter what the response will be, I have to live my purpose. And through publishing that first one, the second came. Idea gives birth to an idea. Once you overcome that hurdle, the field becomes open. Once Usain Bolt starts saying, you know what, I know I doubt my own ability, but I'm going to put on the running shoes anyway, and I'm going to run. Then you break the world record. Then your name becomes synonymous with greatness. So just overcome that first hurdle of self-belief, because after that, everything else You know, you will have challenges along the way in the writing, in ideas and all of that. But because you overcome the first hurdle, everything else, there's a momentum that comes upon you. Another thing, so we say overcome that first hurdle. Secondly, remember that it's not just for you. There's a healing in writing. You know, when I write, you know, I always say that the first person to read your book is you. So before anybody else is inspired by the book, I have to be inspired by the book. As I write, a thought will come and I'll pause and say, wow. And it inspires me before it inspires anybody else. But I know that it's not just for me. It's for the wider public. So number one, just overcome that first hurdle. Courage is not the absence of fear, they say. It's doing even that which you are afraid of. So get the courage to do even that you are afraid of. I know you've written a lot of material. Put it out there. I'm a publisher, I'm your brother, I'll help you, I'll publish your book. Okay, I hope I've answered your question.
The second question about turning the insecurities into strength.
Turning insecurities into strength. Let me think on that a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily about turning your insecurities into strengths. I think you have innate strengths that are there already.
Yeah.
You don't have to try and tap into your insecurities and try to source strength from the strengths are already there. The insecurities are a stumbling block. They are not a source of strength. The strength is the ability to overcome the insecurity. So you've got a strength as a writer, as a thinker, as a creative person. Those are the strengths that you should focus on. And once you build those, you know, if I have 2 dogs, and I'm always feeding this one, one day, you know, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the line, I'm going to see a difference in the 2 dogs. Because this one I've been feeding, this one I've been starving. So if you focus too much on your insecurities, you're feeding them, and they'll grow. But if you start feeding your strengths, your innate giftings, they will grow, and the nice thing is that eventually eat that other dog. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an honor and privilege to serve you.
Thank you, Con. We have come to the end of today's proceedings. So I think it's been wonderful. I've certainly enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the speakers. They've spoken well. I particularly love speakers. When people speak, they just, I don't know, ignite something in me. That's just, I find so fascinating. So I really appreciated listening to the speakers, and the audience has been lovely. Too good. So I do hear, not through the grapevine, but because I was outside, or rather I've seen that there's food outside. So we're done. When you go out, you can have not refreshments, but lunch. I think because we've already experienced all those shekinah, we can have the luxury of requesting a closure in prayer. So I'm not sure. We're in your house, Dr. Khadir. Would you mind closing for us?
Thank you. Well, shall we pray? Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you. We thank you for this wonderful time of reflecting about writing. Lord God, we thank you that you're restoring the art and the tradition of writing, which was there many, many years ago, even in our civilization, that somehow we got lost. And Lord, we thank you because writing, that is why we've got the Bible now, because men and women inspired by you wrote, and we've got the stories. And Lord, we thank you for confidence, and Lord God, we thank you for beauty. Thank you for them as a family who's inspiring this movement of writing. And we pray in the name of Jesus that you continue, Lord God, to bless them. Thank you, Lord God, for our program director and everyone who's spoken today. Every spoken word that has been done today, let it become a rhema word that inspires people to go and do great things for you and the kingdom of God and this nation and the continent. We thank you, Lord, as we're going to enjoy food. We thank you for it, Lord. Bless it into our bodies to nourish it. In the name of Jesus. And we church said,
Amen.
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 God bless you. Thank you. Fantastic. Well.
Thank you.